Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Satish Naik, H, librarian, SGM College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Chitradurga. As a part of online refresher courses in Library and Information Science, hosted by Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, UGC Malaviya Mission Teacher Training Center, Sambhajinagar, I am going to present a micro teaching on the topic of selection and evaluation criteria for electronic resources. In this topic, I will choose there are many skills in the micro teaching. I will select as a explanation skill. Selection and evaluation criteria for electronic resources. During the last few years, documents have begun to appear on the internet. As a result, information specialists from all over the world have started to evaluate electronic resources of data, applying standards both different and same as those used for print data. The main concern is to achieve the highest quality of access and information throughout the www virtual library. Unfortunately, ultimate standards have yet to be agreed. Even though some criteria do already exist, it has not been possible to adopt traditional evaluation criteria because the very new sense itself of electronic resources demands new standards. The internet carries both non professional and professional information. There is a distinct difference between a site and a database. An internet site can be any URL in the internet which contains a document, a collection of data, or just an index to some sources gathered by some good hearted person. The concept of electronic resources is regarded as the mines of information that are explored through modern ICT devices, redefined and redesigned and more often stored in the cyberspace in the most concrete and compact form and can be accessed simultaneously from infinite points by a great number of audience. Selection of e-resources. The common types of e-resources that will be considered are databases containing education sites, electronic books, monographs, electronic full-text journals, internet sites, reference tools, teaching and education material, etc. The following primary and secondary criteria should be used to select all types of e-resources. Primary criteria, secondary criteria. In primary criteria for evaluation of e-resources, relevance, content and scope. The e-resources will be selected to support the information need of the primary users, usually of faculty, preceptors, staff, students and other who rely on the information services provided by LIS network. The selections of material will be based on the user's real and perceived needs through a variety of methods, including commitments, focus groups, surveys, advisory board, and users' recommendations. The professional librarians will also use their expertise to identify subject area that need to be strengthened or added. Organization of material. Preference is given to be product searchable through a variety of ways such as Boolean operations and specialized commands such as the expansion or concepts. Quality of resources. The quality of an electronic resources title can best be determined by collectively and weighing several factors: authority, content, currency, and the special attributes of the work. Authority. expertise of authors or editors, the sponsors, producers, and the possible impact on content, reputation of the publishers, lack of bias, advertising, amount, type, distraction from content, and usefulness. Content, clinical and educational relevance, accuracy, and appropriate level of content, completeness of resources. Secondary criteria for evaluation of e-resources. It consists cost, access capability, system and technical support, simultaneous user, licensing, software requirements, training and education support. In cost, the cost of equipment and support equipments as well as licensing fees must be considered in addition to the purchase price of the product. Vendor pricing formulas based on the number of users, institutions, etc. must also be accommodate individual and institutional users whenever possible. Other costs must also be considered when acquiring an electronic resources. Stop time to be required to negotiate the contract, password and account maintenance, additional charges for technical assistance or support desk, stop time spent assisting user with the electronic technical issues, training cost, indirect cost. In access capabilities, access should be through a vendor supplied server whenever possible. If the resource must be mounted on the local server, the cost of equipment, maintenance of stop time must be evaluated. In system and technical support, vendor support in terms of technical assistance to library and users must be carefully evaluated. Criteria to be considered are vendor helpfulness, expertise, referral and follow up, the hours that technical assistance is valuable, availability of online help, knowledge and responsiveness of representatives, management of password, IDs and registration of clients, availability of direct technical assistance for client, the number of people who can act as contact points for the vendor, regular announcement and communications from vendor. Simultaneous users. The number of simultaneous users supported by the system must be sufficient to meet the needs of the primary users. Both initial and long-term users must be considered. The actual number of users must be balanced through the cost per users and the adverse effects of having user blocked from the system. The cost per users must be evaluated in relation to the value of importance of the content. In licensing, license must be carefully reviewed to ensure that the library maintains fair use rights for its users and that the resource is easily accessible to all users with minimal monitoring or tracking requirements. The contract should include clearly written clause on the following: authorized users, remote access, user authentications through password, IP, or other methods, fair use rights for library service, including ILLs, documentary delivery, etc., fair use rights for clients accessing the content, protection of privacy if tracking or monitoring systems are used, vendor and original liabilities, termination of the contract when, why, and how. Software requirements. Most resources should be self contained and require no special client or application software. If addition software is needed, it should be standard application software such as web browser that is readily available to users. Special software required on each user's desktop must be evaluated in terms of ease of use, installations, and maintenance. Required plugin application should be reviewed. A final consideration is whether the software behind the resource can be modified to brand the site. Training and education. Handouts, manuals, and other instructional information should be reviewed. The availability of online tutorials or help screen should be determined. An estimate of the amount of time to take, learn, and teach the system should be made. The need to publicize the resource should be also discussed. Types of databases: bibliographical databases, full text databases, directory databases. Now, bibliographic databases: ability to restrict by geography, language, subject coverage, indexing from to bottom of a subject hierarchy, treatment, links to related records, exact author and title as well as the equipments. Full text database should have these special needs: fully searchable record with field searching possible as well, low cost browsing format should be included, document length, on off toggled for equivalence systems, comprehensive coverage at the source level, subject oriented file should be included, the major publication in the field, and quick load with currency equivalent that of print sources. Database quality and criteria. The Southern California Online User Group came up with an 10 headings or criteria by which database should be judged. They do make as a useful guide. The headings and details are consistency, coverage, timeliness, accuracy, accessibility, integration, output, documentation, customer support and training, value to cost ratio. Now, evaluation criteria for electronic resources: content considerations, access considerations, technical support considerations, cost considerations, legal considerations. Now, there are some selection tools. From the above, in selecting resources, one has to make decisions about which format to purchase and why are quality resources. To help you make decision about the appropriateness of an e-resources for your library, you may request a publisher to let you test the product on trial basis. Vendor are sometimes willing to let the library try out product if they think it may lead to sale. This is best done when a library is close to making decisions on a product. Trial periods help eliminate the guesswork in selection of e-resources. Another options to visit or talk to librarians of other libraries. In addition to these options, there are members of selection tools available in print and over the internet that can be help you make decision about the e-resources. The quality criteria of evaluating the databases are comprehensiveness, content affordability, accessibility, credibility, and purpose. Credibility of the databases is based on the authority, reputation of the database producer, vendor, organizations, experts behind the database. Purpose of the databases is based on its objectives and intended user. Thus, one has to carefully select the e-resources what is required for the library users and then evaluate the same before purchasing. LIS professional should take lead in evaluating the resources that are required for their users. Thank you so much.